Hi guys, we are back. This is the second podcast for today. Back with Harry, and Harry is going to blow a few minds. What don't you just tell us the story, bro? What happened to you when you were doing your laundry?
Well, I was, just doing a load and getting ready, just, pouring the water, getting the water ready. And all of a sudden I look up at my detergents, and I'm using a product that's like a booster that helps the cleaning agents to work better. It's called, well, I'll share what it's called, but immediately I started thinking about some of the elements that we interact with, like on the periodic table. And I'm like, oh wait, if I use my primary language and I use the Greek, I realized that the spelling is giving us a different name, a meaning for what that really is written on the box. So it made me just realize, okay, there's more deception. And again, it's about language. And a lot of the stuff that I pretty much present is language based, because I play off of the three languages that I speak, and it just, for me, comes pretty easy. And I just want to make sure I share that with everyone else.
Well, it blew my mind when we went through it yesterday and you broke it all down. Absolutely blew my mind. The connections that you made, and a couple that I have made that you haven't seen. So let's put these guys out of their what's the word? Let's just get on with it,
eh? Okay, so we can just start with the first slide, and I'm going to call this is not your normal theatrical comedy, because in reality, everything that we are perceiving is comedy.
You're not sharing, bro.
I'm not sharing.
No.
Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Share screen. There we go. Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah. So not your normal theatrical comedy. It's the O2 Brute. And that's playing off of the quote from Shakespeare, or at least they tell us it's Shakespeare, from Julius Caesar, when he says, et tu, Brute. And in a nutshell, that translation of et tu, Brute would say something to the effect of, you too, my son, will have the taste of power.
I've just noticed something that I didn't notice yesterday. When you look at the O2, looks an awful lot like Oz, Wizard of Oz. Oz being the abbreviation for ounces, with and gold and silver come in ounces. I've just noticed that.
And in many cases, we understand that O2, its nature is acidic. Yeah. And we also understand that when you purify anything, let's talk about gold, because that's what we, in essence, are to the evil one. Gold, the more and more it's heated, the more and more it gets purified. So yes, that's a major connection. So we'll move on from this first. And of course, this quote, this "you too, my son," we're going to go into more detail on what the connection is between oxygen and this quote. Let's see. It is not moving forward.
Well, click on the screen and then press your down arrow button.
There it goes. Okay. So we've been talking a lot about the sun, the moon, and the earth, which I'm now calling the Holy Trinity. We talked about how the sun is the soul, the moon is the mooni is the feminine, and it's just going in a clockwise cycle down to the earth, where we're born to the earth from the moon, and we're deposited into the moon from the sun. And that's why I have that spiral going in the middle, because it's just hypnotizing you into this 666 reproductive cycle of eternity where you are just the battery.
Yeah.
You're of no purpose but to just be the energy source for this false realm. So again, I'm going to focus on language. And in this case, I'm going to say that language is the key to forgetting, because we know that we talked about the river Lethe through Plato's work is something that when we die, we take a drink of that river, that water, and we forget everything. So it's not about learning, but it's also about, more importantly, about remembering. So this birth versus rebirth versus death, it's all pretty much the same. Birth and death and rebirth is really nothing more than the same, just using different terminology.
Yeah, but it's also hidden in the word research. I mean, we already know this stuff. We are researching it.
Exactly. So let's look at the word Lethe. Lethe was that name of that river. But because, I do think in the Greek, even though I'm very fluent in English, and I was born here in the United States, I tend to really still think in the Greek. When we take the word Lethe and we add an A in the front, we get the word aletheia. And in the Greek, aletheia means truth. So if we remove the A and go back to Lethe, could that possibly mean not truth?
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of thought, okay, well, I've never heard anyone use Lethe as the word for lie. It's not used. It's not understood to mean that, but possibly in the past, it may have been the real way of saying lie. So I kind of make that connection as we look at the word symmetrical versus asymmetrical. Adding an A in many cases, even in the English, reverses the meaning, makes it an antonym, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Lethe, in my opinion, could be a lie, and aletheia can mean the truth or unlie. So when we talk to people about language, a lot of them will say, well, through time, words change meaning, and that's a cultural phenomenon, and we'll use semantics as the reason. And I say, that's just a crock. I think it's a manipulation. It's a way of helping the masses to forget what reality and truth is.
I totally agree with you. I mean, there's got to be a reason why we would describe somebody as being down to earth. He's a down to earth kind of guy. Down to earth. Think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as I was saying, we tried to look at the resets, and we've seen that the resets are happening probably in 100-year increments.
Yeah.
If our lifespans are in that 80 to 85 range, there's a good 15 to 20-year gap between these cycles where if we become adults, which is another bad term to use, then we really miss a 20-year window of asking questions from our previous generations.
Yeah.
So I think that's another cog in their wheel to trip us up.
Definitely.
All right. So on my next slide, I say, hey, you. Who? Me? You talking to me? Yeah, Hugh. I'm talking to you, you Yahoo. So this play on words, I'm using the word you. I'm implementing the you as in the sheep. And then I'm talking about the hue, which is the hue of the human. And then I talk about the Yahudans, who we identify as the Yahoos. So if we look at the word hue, the definitions are all there, but
well, Harry, can I just jump in here? Just for the benefit of the new subscribers that haven't caught up yet, what Harry just said is the Yehudans. The Yehudans are basically the Genesis 1:27 creation. Okay, it was Genesis 1:26 when God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And they are what we call the Yehudans. Sorry, please continue.
No, that's perfect. So when we talk about colors and hues, we see the definition of a hue as being the range of the colors. And so the focal point that I want to make using this slide is the word human and how we connect to the colors and to the holographic nature of how we see things.
Yep.
The other point I want to make is the letter X is very crucial in languages. And we'll see that in the Greek, the X really makes an H sound. So if you were to pronounce a word that has that X, it would sound like the way a person from Mexico would pronounce their country, Mexico. All right. Yeah. And as we see in this example, the X makes the J or the English H sound, as in the city of Oaxaca, spelled over here, but Oaxaca, is pronounced Oaxaca.
Well, that brings us full circle to the names, Spanish names, Juan and Jose, that are spelled with a J, pronounced H. And that connects to what we talked about, the Jesus being Jesus, being he's us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's crucial to know that through time and in different cultures, letters are interchangeable. And we see this in how we split words and how we change the pronunciations and the spelling. And in those cases, a lot of times it's just, again, to trip us up, to put things right in our face, explain them away with rules, and keep everyone pretty much in the dark. So I'll go into a little bit of depth here. We see the chart of the lowercase and capital letters in the Greek alphabet. And what I want to emphasize here is the word oxygen. So we're going to go to oxygen, and we see that in the English on the bottom, it's the OXY, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to spell this in the Greek, it would be the O, or the Omicron, and the Xi, which is, I've highlighted it right here in the far left.
Yeah.
They give you the phonetic pronunciation here as XI, which is Xi.
She in Chinese, she.
Yeah, so it's Xi in Greek. Mm-hmm. But when we look at the letter X here, they tell us that the pronunciation is Chi or Chi.
Chi. Well, again, that gives us the connection to Chi, QI, mm-hmm. which is energy.
Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you that every professor that is a non-Greek speaking professor always pronounces it Chi or Chai, and that's wrong. It's not pronounced like that. It's pronounced he, like he is a man. He.
Right.
So when you look at the word oxygen, in theory, you would be pronouncing it Ohigen. Ohigen.
Ohigen.
Which is not the way it's pronounced, because in the Greek, we're going to use the Xi letter, which it should be spelled like that, but we don't have a Xi in English. So you'd think that you would spell it with a K and an S.
Yeah.
And in some cases, you'll see a KS is used to explain it.
Okay.
But I want to pretty much point out that oxygen really means, if you break it down, it'd be oxy or ohi, and yene, which ohi yene would mean no creation.
Just as an example, just as a quick example, I mean, the word socks, S-O-C-K-S. If you spelt it S-O-X, it would have exactly the same pronunciation.
Yeah, and one of the baseball teams here in the United States, that's how they spell it. The Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm not a baseball fan, so we'll leave it at that. So we'll go to the product that we were talking about in the beginning. I was going to use my regular detergent, and I was going to add some of this to boost the cleaning. And as I was looking at it, and I thought, oh, that's spelled OXI. And if I were to pronounce that in the Greek, it would say ohi. And ohi, we said, meant no. So I'm like, oh, okay, no clean. Interesting. So let's just go to the breakdown here. OXI. OXI, it means sharp pointed acid. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they use, here in the explanation, they use the AK. A-K. Okay. AK. That's how they're getting the sound of ox. Ok. All right. And then we go down to the word oxygen, and they tell you the same thing again. It's a sharp acid. But then they break down the gene, and they tell you it means the formation or creation. So again, I'm going to tell you the true meaning of oxy would be pronounced ohi, which means no.
I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there's an emphatic over the first E in the first yellow oxygene word, which means it will be pronounced oxygene.
Yeah, right there. Mm-hmm. So it's telling you that it's not creating. That's what hit me when I first saw that. So now I'm going to go through the container, and I'm going to tell you what else I saw. So on this slide, I call it what this container is and is not telling you. So the first thing I noticed is it's telling you that it's a stain fighter. This is going to go back to the word hue that we covered just a few slides ago. We know that a hue is a color. And so if it's a fighter, it's going to remove the human, which is the color of man. So it's a color of man or a remover of man.
Yep.
The next thing I saw on the box or the container was 108. And we know that 108 is a very symbolic number. It tells you that in this 5-pound container, you get 108 loads. The size and distance of the sun, moon is that ratio of 108 times and 108 times the distance. So we know what they're trying to tell us there. But the other thing that we have to take into consideration is, I know that we talked about baseball with the Boston
Red Sox
and the whatever the other team is, the whatever Sox. They're on their baseball. They have how many stitches? There are 216 single stitches and 108 double stitches.
Yeah. Well, 108 times 2 is 216, which is 6 times 6 times 6. Yeah.
And we know that adding the 3 6s together, we also get 18.
Yeah, 0 means nothing.
And 18 means the age of majority.
Yeah.
And again, that will relate back to the 6-6 sex, because in majority, you're a man and you got to take care of business.
Yep.
All right. The next thing I see is the XI in the word oxy, right? XI. Well, the XI is in Roman numerals. If you read it in reverse, it's a IX or a 9. And if you read it straightforward, it's an 11. So what they're doing is encoding 9/11 here, as we do see that in so many other places too.
Yeah.
The other thing we see is the O can also be interpreted as a 0. The 0 times 1, anything times 0 is 0. So again, it's going back to the elimination of humanity.
L,
so,
emanation. Yeah.
The L, emanation. Okay, so what do we have next? Next, we have the word clean. Now, in the word clean, we still have the E or the EL in reverse. And then I remember Nigel's the one that pointed this one out to me. It's talking about El can. So we know that this false god El, he can do what he's saying. He can eliminate us if he wants to, because this fake god has 101 ways to use this product. And what's 101? It's really just 11. And we know that the 11 represents 1/3 of the 33. And we know, yeah, there's 101 ways to use this product.
Yeah.
We can also see that the OXI can also be the 0 and the 1, which is the duality that we've talked about many times.
Also the binary, on and off, isn't it?
Yeah, because the 01 or the 10 that we say is the binary system of what we use in this computer simulation that we live in.
Yeah, look at an on-off switch. It's a 0 with a 1 through it.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So, and then at the very bottom of the box, we see the Spanish words that say sin cloro, which you can see that means without chlorine. So if you take the words sin cloro, it says without, I see the CL portion being common law, which brings us back to commerce.
Mm-hmm.
And then oro means gold. So they want to remove the common law gold. They want to take all our energy.
Well, that's what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in the very last line on this slide, I say, well, it can also be another thing. If you take off the CL and the oro, you can also make it sound like color. All right, because cloro is a anagram for color.
Yeah, without color.
Yeah, without color. So it's, again, removing the stain, because we are considered a stain to them.
Wow.
All right, and we'll move on to that.
That is powerful stuff, bro.
Yeah. So who would Shakespeare, who would Shakespeare at Romans? And this is where I'm going to play on the words a little bit. We know that William Shakespeare was probably more of a fictitious character, because I've read some studies on who really wrote all those great works and who helped to write the King James version. It was not a guy named William. But we'll look at the character in his Julius Caesar that kills Caesar, and his name was Brutus. Well, what does Brutus mean? The breakdown is of the word brute, and a brute is a dull, a heavy, or a stupid person of lower animals, wanting in reason, blunt or dull in sentiment, someone who's unintelligent. You can use the word of brute force, and irrational, purely material. And I'm going to focus right here. Someone who focuses on materialism, I would say, is a brute. So we're going to look at the Shakespearean experience and who we're talking about. So we're going to move on from this one. So we go back to that quote, et tu, Brute. When we look at interpretations, we see that phrase can be broken down in several ways. But down in the interpretation, we're going to see that it was more of a coined phrase that if you just started to quote it, the people of the time knew exactly what you were going to say before you even finished the phrase. So it was almost like a colloquial statement. So et tu, Brute, means, and you, Brutus, you as well, you too, even you, and that's in that book, Julius Caesar. But this was used in other writings even prior to the Shakespearean use. So let's look a little bit about what I'm talking about when I say O tu, Brute. Well, this is my version. I put HC's version. I've come to the conclusion that the true author of the Shakespearean, all the plays, and even that King James version was a woman, a Moorish woman named Emilia Bassano. There's a lot of books out there that kind of exposes her as the true author. And we won't go into detail on that because it's a different podcast, but this is more of a warning shot and a foreshadowing that this Brutus guy who's killing Julius Caesar is actually going to end up killing himself and committing suicide. And this is kind of like making fun of the Romans of the time. That's why she used the name shaking the spear or Shakespeare, because they're foreshadowing the suicide of Brutus. Now, how I'm connecting the oxygen is that even though oxygen is an important part of a life-sustaining property, it in essence is doing something that we don't recognize currently in our state of existence.
Well, it's that's why we say when something goes rusty, it oxidizes. It's the oxygen that's killing it, basically.
Yeah. So
changing its form. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's giving us life in that it's providing the necessary way of breathing or replenishing what we need in the lungs and through the heart. But oxygen, we've already figured out by breaking the word down that it's not going to keep us alive, but it's because it's not going to generate anything of real life. This element is a assistant in life, yet will eventually rust you from within, just like the subhuman brute called Yahweh. So there's my connection. The brute has created this system here in order to utilize us for that short time, be done with us, have us recycle in that first slide that I showed from the sun to the moon back onto the plane, just to utilize us for the energy, because Yahweh is that brute.
Yep, we are batteries.
Yep. Hope you got that connection. It's kind of long-winded, but I made it, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's look at that interpretation here real quick. So Caesar adapted the words of this Greek saying or the sentence that the Romans used for a long time. And so when he would say et tu, the whole crowd that was going to watch this performance already knew that it was going to be that foreshadowing of how Brutus would eventually, who took over for Caesar, would eventually lose a battle. And because he was such a coward, he chose to kill himself rather than face the consequence of the enemy coming in and killing him.
Yeah.
And that's what this coward Yahweh is doing. The coward Yahweh is feeding us oxygen, where every breath that we take, we're really just killing ourselves. Slowly.
Well, look at the word ward. Ward has two meanings that I can think of. It's a place in a hospital.
Yeah.
And you can also become a ward of court, right?
Yes.
And co means with, doesn't it? So the word coward would break down into co-ward.
Yeah.
We are the co-wards of Yahweh.
And it also can break down to cow herd.
Cow herd, yeah.
So they're herding us like the cows or the animals that he kind of looks at us like.
The cattle, the chattel, yeah.
The cattle, the mankind. All right, so let's keep going. The world is a play on words. And again, I see the language as being a major impediment in understanding what exactly is happening. So the authors of this faux realm, you talked about Fauci's and his faux realm, would have us believe it to be the all.
I just thought of another one as well. Foe, as in F-O-E.
Oh yeah.
Your enemy. Yeah, same pronunciation.
Yep. Yes. So truth is that it is nothing more than the greatest showman's hallmark performance of a dark comedy. And I just watched the movie The Greatest Showman, and he identifies as someone who puts on an act, kind of like a magician, and most of it is just false. You know, maybe it's just a major exaggeration of what is, you know, really being shown, but it is a performance to show.
Yeah.
And the one thing that even Kyron Last emphasizes, it's a comedy. And we think of comedy as something funny, but if you look at the Latin, comedy comes from the word comer, and comer means to eat. So,
while it's in my head, you just mentioned the movie The Greatest Showman. There's a movie that somebody suggested that we watch. It's a new movie, it came out in 2021, and it's called Infinite. Guys, if you haven't seen it, if I was to say it's a must watch, the word must would have to be in not just capital letters, but giant letters. It's the truth drops in that movie are off the freaking charts. So I just wanted to mention that in case I forget later. Sorry.
No, I definitely, I remember that movie was recommended, and it's on my list to watch. All right, so the perception. Remember, perception is the key to keeping people in their cage.
That's why they call it the perception deception, yeah.
Yeah, it could be wide open, and if you don't perceive it to be open, you're going to stay in there. So what's the perception? The perception is that O2 is bringing the pinnacle of life to humanity. And again, the guy who plays in this Greatest Showman, his name is Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, we did a whole show on the Jack, didn't we?
Yeah, and look, it's really just the human. So the human is being played here. You think that O2 is really going to be his savior, but in reality, the truth versus the perception is the opposite of the truth. O2 will bring life, but for a short time, like the Satan's life, 80 years, because we are the adversary. We are given this poison in slow doses of poison. And the whole time we think that this is real life. But in reality, the life that's being given to us is shortening our lives because of the rust. It's coming in from the oxygen. It's the oxygene or oxygene, which is no generation, because iron is being rusted out by the oxygen. Because we also know that iron is Fe, as in the word female.
Yeah, and Fe, iron, is the 26th element on the table. 26 letters in the alphabet. The Yahweh, Bohe in Hebrew, the Yahweh is 26. There's 26 is a huge number in this realm.
Oh yeah. So then in the next line, with every breath and every chambered heartbeat, man's life is nothing more than a self-imposed death sentence of suicide in this copied false plane.
Yep.
That's where that connection to et tu Brute comes in.
Yeah.
Because for every breath we take in to live, we're slowly killing ourselves.
Remember that song from the Police, Every Breath You Take, every move you make, I'll be watching you. Yeah.
So all we got to do is cover that one eye.
Yep.
And then you won't be able to. So, and we definitely have to do, this reminded me, we have to do a presentation on the heart and its true function.
Yeah.
And how it is not really the pump they say it is.
No, it's not.
That's another podcast. So let me finish this this one on the last line. The yahoos have been laughing and the feasting long enough, and it's time to take the narrow path and stop choosing the right or the left. There's no real choice with these two options, and we have to take it back. Again, the emphasis is on the feasting, because this is a black comedy and they're eating us alive. And
absolutely. You should revisit the lyrics to Hotel California. Now, when I was much younger, when I was in my teenage years, I guess, I loved the Eagles. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. And even if people weren't a fan of the Eagles, I mean, you know, you could arguably say that Hotel California, I mean, it's probably their most popular song ever. I don't think they wrote it. I think it was given to them. I think there's a message in there. It's all about reincarnation. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave because you're going to keep coming back. There's a reference in there, a couple of references in there about light, going into the light kind of thing. Even if you just read the lyrics, having this new knowledge that we're putting out, it just you can see it as clear as day. And if you haven't watched our reincarnation trap podcast, it was a one we did a while ago now. You should really go and have a look at that, because it's all about not going into the light. The light is false. It's fake. It's a construct. It's all part of this sun, moon, and plane realm. You know.
Yeah, well, like we've talked about many times, these downloads, they can come anywhere. You know, I've had one in the shower about the some of the we talked about the tricks. You know, we found out what tricks really means. I've had it driving and looking at the soccer ball on the truck. We found that the soccer ball has the 20 hexagons and 12 pentagons on it.
Well, the 32, you know, a lot of people in this community, they talk about the 32 and the 33. Well, if you look at I think you still use Fahrenheit, don't you, in the US? Well, 32 is the point at which water freezes, and 33 is when it begins to melt. So you have that 32 connection, being we are essentially all frozen. Yeah. The 33, which is connected to enlightenment, for want of a better word, is at the point that we begin to thaw out, or that water begins to thaw out. And they tell us that, you know, our body is, I don't know, 70% water or whatever nonsense they tell us. So there's your 32, meaning in the soccer ball with the total 32 patches, for want of a better word. We did a whole podcast on that, guys. Again, you know, they're showing us. They're showing us exactly what we need to know in order to figure it all out, but they're just not telling us.
Yeah, well, again, the download I got was, you know, just doing my laundry. It's everywhere. It's in all the products. It's in all the songs. It's in all the movies. It's in all of the things that we interact with on a daily basis. Especially, well, of course, you're not going to see the truth in the news as much as you will see it in some of the movies, some of the cartoons, and of course, some of the fairy tales. That's where a lot of the truth drops are there, because they want to satisfy the requirements of being able to tell the truth, but putting it in an obscure place where you aren't really going to be looking for it. So all these songs that are so brilliant, the only reason they are is because they have created the truth, they have created the paradigm, and they drop that song in, and then everyone says, oh, wow, how true that is. Well, it's true because they've made it. They've conditioned us to the point where we think that we have our free thoughts, but in reality, we're being bombarded with these messages on a daily basis. And then when we run into them, we think, oh, look at that. But in reality, we're just being pre-programmed. So yeah, these songs, like the Eagles song, there's nothing miraculous about it. It's just they've created this world and they throw that song in to just amaze us.
Well, yeah, you look at the old Beatles song, Strawberry Fields. Let me take you down because I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Nothing is real.
Yeah,
they're telling you in the song. Why does everybody in the world know row, row, row your boat? Life is but a dream. You know, we take things too seriously because that's how we've been raised and trained and indoctrinated and brought up. It's just how it is. We've been conned, we've been lied to about everything.
Yeah. And like you said, it's more of a deception than a lie.
Yeah.
Because a lie is easy to detect. A deception is mostly true, but something is either taken away or added to just make it wrong.
Absolutely. Mate, that was great. That was a great presentation. Thank you very much. You put a lot of work into that. Guys, show Harry some love. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think. Because, you know, a lot of the time, just reading your comments inspires us to look at other aspects of this reality, and of course to make more podcasts. So you know, I look at this channel with myself, Harry, and all our wonderful subs. I look at us as being a team, right? We're all team players in this. So you know, your comments are extremely valuable. We read every single one of them, well, providing we get a notification. We read them all, and we respond to as many as we possibly can. So keep them coming, guys. As I say, I will put a link to the copy and paste. I mentioned it in the podcast we just did, the part 2 of the horses. I'll put it in here as well, because once you grasp this, look, again, and we're the first to admit, we can't prove that we live in a copied and pasted realm, but nobody can prove that we don't. And when you listen or listen to that podcast, at the things that we talk about, how we're wasting our time going down so many rabbit holes, Tartaria being one of them, the wonderful architecture and that being one of them, because the answers are not in this realm. This is a mirror. This is a copy. Yeah, and we're going to be, the download that I had yesterday was when I was looking at the bat that was upside down, thinking that's how we're born, right? We're born inverted into this inverted realm, right? Everything's a mirror. You know, you have the duality. You go in the bathroom and look in the mirror. There's two of you. There's you, the carbon-based figure, and you have your reflection that's looking back at you. That creates the duality of what this realm is. And when you tie in, or when we tie in the work of the You Are Anon with his moon map, it all fits. It all comes together. But we're going to do that as a separate podcast. I'm going to start putting some things together today or tomorrow. So hopefully, if Harry can find an hour during his busy day and night, then we'll get that presented. So, all right, guys, we'll leave this one here for now. Thanks again for watching. Please go back if you haven't already and watch the other one, which I'm just going to call it the Robin, the horses one. It's kind of a part 2, some stuff that I forgot to present when I was doing that show with Robin. All right, so we'll catch you on the next one, guys. Take care.
One thing I wanted to add just before we close, it's crucial. We've been building on some of the concepts of that copy and paste. It's crucial if you're new to go back and look at some of our older. When I say older, I'm like 3, 4, 5 months back. We've been doing 1 to 2 videos a week now for the last 5 to 6 months. It's crucial that if you're jumping into this right now, you may not understand why we call ourselves the adversary. You know, who are the players? All those questions are answered, and some of the fear that people have can be totally gone when they kind of understand who are the players in this realm.
Somebody in a chat room on another channel, I made a comment and they asked me why is my channel called The Devil's Playground? Well, it should be obvious by now, because this is the Devil's Playground. This is where we play, where we live. Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
All right, guys. Catch you on the next one. Love ya.
All right. Take care.